Imagine witnessing a group of aggressive men cornering an innocent young woman, completely unaware that nearby sits someone with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. This is Jerome Taylor's story, though everyone called him JT. JT was 42 years old, having walked free just 6 months earlier after completing a 5-year prison term for manslaughter. The incident that landed him behind bars haunted him daily. He'd witnessed a man attacking a woman in a gas station lot, stepped in to help, but things spiraled out of control. Someone died. The court called it excessive force, and in his heart, JT couldn't argue with their verdict. The guilt gnawed at him relentlessly, an open wound that refused to close. Memphis was suffocating under one of those brutal southern afternoons, the kind of oppressive heat that wraps around you like a blanket long after sunset paints the Mississippi sky. JT had just finished his shift at the auto repair garage on Union Avenue, motor oil still embedded under his nails, when he stepped into a humble establishment called Maggie's Place. The bar was unpretentious. Weathered photos of blues icons hung askew on tired walls. An ancient jukebox still played Otis Redding classics, and the regulars understood each other's pain better than their own stories. JT preferred solitude. He claimed his usual corner table, requested sweet tea, and minded his own business. He wasn't seeking confrontation, yet confrontation seemed to follow him wherever he went. The trouble began with a harsh voice that sliced through the bar's gentle murmur. 3 intoxicated men had trapped a young black woman, barely 22, at the far end of the room. They were belligerent, boisterous, and entitled. When she attempted to leave, one seized her arm. The entire establishment fell silent. Music continued, playing, but patrons buried their faces in their drinks, choosing self-preservation over intervention. JT didn't hesitate. He rose from his seat. No speeches, just deliberate action. Moving with calculated purpose, he crossed the floor, made eye contact with the man restraining the woman, then calmly grabbed his wrist and applied just enough pressure to force release. The man yelped and let go immediately. His 2 companions stepped forward threateningly, but something in JT's unwavering gaze and powerful build made them reconsider. "Say you're sorry to her," JT commanded, his voice steady as a heartbeat. The drunk mumbled what barely qualified as an apology before, pulling his friends toward the exit. From behind the counter, Maggie, the establishment's owner, observed everything unfold. She was tough as old boots, but still had a soft spot for doing what's right. She clapped once, sharp and appreciative. "We could use someone like you working here," she announced, gesturing toward an empty stool near the entrance. "Still got that. Security position available if you want it." JT paused to consider. Juggling 2 jobs wasn't ideal, but given his criminal record, opportunities were scarce. He accepted. Days meant repairing vehicles. Evenings meant maintaining order at Maggie's establishment. It was legitimate employment, though life wasn't finished challenging him. Several weeks later, while closing up, a woman approached him. She identified herself as Dana Rivers, poised, dignified, probably in her early 40s, with eyes that held quiet storms. She was the widow of the man JT had killed. He went rigid. "I authored the letter that contributed to your early release," she explained. "But I didn't do it for your benefit. Her daughter Maya required emergency heart surgery. State insurance wouldn't cover everything. Private treatment was their only option, costing $300,000. She asked JT for assistance, not monetary donations, since he lacked such resources, but a commitment." "I have faith in second chances, Mr. Taylor," Dana stated. "Now show me my trust wasn't misplaced." That evening, JT tallied his assets. Shop earnings, bar tips, barely $5,000 total. Sitting on his small rental's porch, he wondered how someone, with empty pockets, could tackle such an enormous problem. The following day, JT confided in Maggie. After listening, she nodded thoughtfully. "Ever heard about the barn? It wasn't a location. It was an underground fighting circuit in South Memphis, housed in a former livestock auction building. The money was substantial, but so were the risks and dangers. The organizer was Russ Cole, a former fighter turned hustler known for bending rules until they shattered. Maggie arranged their meeting that week. Russ examined JT head to toe. "You've got that prison build. Did you fight inside?" JT nodded curtly. "Then you understand the rules. No gloves, no rounds. Fight until someone surrenders or drops." JT hesitated. His parole terms were rigid. Any illegal involvement meant returning to prison, but Maya's young, sick face was burned into his memory. He agreed. His debut opponent was nicknamed Doghouse, a lean ex-Marine with anger issues. The audience was savage, screaming and throwing money like celebration confetti. JT maintained composure, fought intelligently, and when he delivered the finishing blow, the momentary silence before applause felt like absolution. Russ handed him a thick envelope. 10,000. Not bad for one night. JT took only half, finding Doghouse in the locker area, battered and dejected, and gave him the remainder. "For your children," he said simply. The man stayed quiet but nodded once, eyes widening with surprise. Maggie, who'd attended to watch, embraced JT afterward. "You've got something worth fighting for. That's unusual around here." Money began accumulating. He competed every 2 weeks. Bruises took longer to heal, but medical bills started shrinking. Still, something felt wrong. Russ began calling him Golden Goose. The more JT won, the bigger the wagers became. One evening, JT overheard a tense conversation between Russ and a suited man. Words like debt, loan shark, and deadline drifted through the air. JT realized he wasn't just fighting for Maya anymore. He was helping Russ survive. When JT confronted him, Russ shrugged. "You think this world lets anyone escape clean?" That week, Dana called. Maya had collapsed. The transplant needed immediate action or might never happen. They were still $50,000 short. JT proposed a deal to Russ. "Arrange one final match. Big prize money. I'll face whoever you choose, but afterward I'm finished." Russ agreed but warned him. "This won't be simple. This guy's called the Butcher." JT stood center ring in the barn, the makeshift arena dimly illuminated by swaying overhead, bulbs powered by a cheap generator. The crowd was louder than ever. Gamblers, thrill-seekers, and lost souls packed around the ring like worshippers. Across from him loomed the Butcher, a massive man from Baton Rouge, bald, scarred, reportedly capable of breaking jaws with single elbow strikes. JT breathed deeply in the thick, humid air. This wasn't merely a fight. It was his final card to play. Dana's voice echoed in his thoughts. Her quiet faith, her broken dignity, how she held her daughter's fragile hand at the hospital. Maya was innocent in all this. She had no idea that the man who took her father's life had become the one fighting for hers. The bell sounded, actually a metal pipe striking an oil drum. JT moved first, not aggressively, but with purpose. He'd analyzed the Butcher's previous fights, strong and fast early, but careless after 2 rounds. JT ducked, blocked, and absorbed punishment. The first rib shot rattled his spine. The second stole his breath, but he remained standing. He waited, weathering the assault like concrete against a hurricane. When the Butcher began slowing, JT struck back. Jab, feint, left hook, then a crushing right that staggered his opponent. The crowd howled like hungry wolves. JT despised the sound. This wasn't sport, but desperation disguised as violence. The final blow came swiftly, a hip pivot and uppercut that dropped the Butcher like a falling tree. JT didn't celebrate, only stood breathing heavily, fists still clenched, but heart empty. Russ rushed over, wild-eyed and sweating, shouting about winning $200,000 in bets. JT didn't care. He took his share, walked out gripping the money tightly, and never returned. He went directly to the hospital. Dana was sleeping in a waiting room chair, Maya resting quietly nearby. He placed the envelope on the table and gently touched Dana's shoulder. She woke startled, then stared at the cash in disbelief. "It's all here," JT said. "Your daughter gets her operation." Her lips trembled. "How?" she whispered. Let's just say I honored my word, he replied. She reached for his hand, tears forming. I never imagined I'd be grateful to the man who killed my husband? JT shook his head slowly. You're not. You're thanking the man learning to live with what he did. He left before Maya could wake. He didn't want her seeing him as a savior. She didn't need more ghosts in her life. Weeks passed. The money was gone, but so were the fights. JT returned to the garage, face still healing, knuckles stiff. Maggie reduced his bar shifts, saying his eyes looked tired in a way rest couldn't fix. One evening while cleaning the bar counter, Kesha, the same young woman he'd once defended, entered with a flyer advertising a city mentorship program for troubled teens. They need volunteers, she said. Kids like I used to be. Thought of you. JT didn't respond immediately. He studied the flyer, then looked at Kesha, seeing not just a young woman, but a reminder of why he chose to fight originally, not for thrills or redemption, but because someone had to stand up when others wouldn't. He attended the first session. A week later, 12 kids sat in a circle, guarded and slouched, eyes full of mistrust. JT didn't preach. He told them truth about prison meals, sleepless nights weighted by guilt, and the unknown little girl who now had renewed hope for life. You can't choose the pain that finds you, he told them, but you can choose what you do with it. Afterward, one boy lingered, 16, thin with quiet eyes and quick temper. You ever kill someone? He asked. JT didn't flinch. Yes, and I carry it daily. It never disappears. But helping someone, saving someone, that helps. The boy nodded once and walked away. That was enough. Maggie called later that week. Someone's here to see you. When JT arrived, he found Dana and Maya at the bar. Maya looked healthier, fuller cheeks, soft smile. She handed him a drawing of her and her mother standing beside a man with broad shoulders and kind eyes. That's you, she said. JT swallowed hard. You didn't need to come. Dana smiled. We did, because sometimes people who've done terrible things fight hardest to do something right. JT didn't cry. Not there, not then. But that night, alone in his room, he released everything he'd carried. Not because he was healed, but because he'd finally begun forgiving himself. Not completely, but enough to take another step forward. Months later, Memphis settled into spring, bringing magnolia blossoms and rain-soaked pavement. Life for JT found rhythm, not peaceful exactly, but steady. He continued day shifts at the shop and evenings at the youth center, guiding boys who teetered on the same darkness he'd once known. Each week brought new faces, new stories. Jamal had artistic talent but burned too hot inside. Reggie stayed silent for 3 weeks until asking if JT really fought bare-knuckle matches. JT nodded. Only when necessary. Reggie said nothing more but started staying late to help clean. Trust, built slowly, like summer sweat, accumulating beat by beat. JT rarely discussed his past, but the city had ways of reminding him. Walking home from the center one evening, a black SUV pulled alongside. The window lowered, revealing a familiar face. Russ. Cole, half desperate, half cocky. JT, we need to talk. JT kept walking. I'm done with that life. Russ followed persistently. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't critical. I'm in deep, man. Owe a guy in Little Rock more than I can handle. He's collecting next week. You're the only one who can win big enough to save me. JT stopped, voice quiet but firm. You made your choices. I made mine. Russ looked near tears. He's threatening my sister. She has kids, man, please. JT walked away, but the words haunted him. That night he barely slept, thinking of Maya, Dana, the teens he mentored. Then he remembered the desperation in Russ's eyes, not just fear, but shame. Next morning, JT visited Maggie. She was pouring coffee, reading the commercial appeal as always. He told her everything without interruption. When he finished, she folded the paper and met his gaze. You saved a girl's life, JT. You've done enough. But I know you. If you abandon someone in trouble, it'll destroy you inside. JT stared into his mug. I don't want to go back. She reached across and touched his hand. Then don't go back. Move. Forward. Just don't lose yourself along the way. 2 days later, JT met Russ in a West Memphis warehouse. Inside was a ring, makeshift but solid. Opponents trained in shadows while bets were placed. The crowd was leaner, harder, more criminal. JT absorbed it all, feeling cold resolve settle into his bones. His opponent was Bonesaw, an ex-con from Oklahoma who'd once dislocated a shoulder mid-match. Stakes were $100,000, winner takes all. Russ had somehow secured a loan to double the payout. If you win, we're clear, he said. If not... He didn't finish. The fight began. Bonesaw attacked fast, fists like sledgehammers but no finesse. JT dodged, absorbed, countered. Every impact felt like a car crash, but he stayed upright, remembering every prison beating, every regret carved into his soul. This wasn't about redemption or glory. It was about drawing a line between who he was and who he could still become. Midway through round 2, Bonesaw landed a brutal jaw hook. The world tilted, blood filled his mouth. But through the haze he saw Dana's face, Maya's laughter, Reggie's quiet nods. He rose. He didn't just fight. He endured. Bonesaw threw wild, desperate punches. JT moved like a storm, calm at the center, ruthless at the edges. The final blow was clean and merciful. Russ rushed over after the fight, eyes full of awe and something else. Respect. He pressed cash into JT's hands, but JT didn't count it. He handed half back. For your sister, not you. Don't gamble it away. Russ nodded speechlessly. Back in the city, JT didn't discuss the fight. He quietly resumed his life as if nothing happened. But changes began. Around him, Reggie started drawing again. Portraits of center kids, rough but alive. Jamal brought his baby sister one day, wanting her to see the place that saved me. Dana invited JT to Maya's 10th birthday party. The girl hugged him without hesitation. You're like a real superhero, she said. He smiled and shook his head. Just a man trying to do right. One evening, while locking up the youth center, he found someone waiting by the gate. Kesha, the young woman from the bar, his first defense in this second life. She looked different now, more confident. She was in nursing school. I never said, "Thank you," she said. You did more than stop those guys. You made me believe someone still cared. JT simply nodded. That's all I ever wanted. Walking home under streetlights, past rust-colored buildings and distant blues spilling from open windows, Memphis remained the same city. But he was not the same man. He had scars, some deep, some healing. But he also had purpose. And in that, peace. Reaching his door, a text lit up his old phone from Dana. Maya's surgery went perfectly. She's going to be fine. Thank you for everything. JT stared at the screen, hands trembling slightly, then put the phone away and stepped inside. He looked at the small picture on his nightstand, one Maya had drawn of him smiling with an oversized cape. He chuckled softly. He wasn't a hero, but he was standing tall, and that was more than enough. The deeper message this story teaches us, especially those who've lived long enough to carry both regrets and wisdom, that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing repeatedly to be better despite it. JT's journey resonates with many mature Americans. We've all made mistakes, lost our way, or found ourselves silent when we should have spoken. But what defines someone isn't their worst moment. It's how they rise afterward. This story reminds us it's never too late to change direction. Never. Too late to stand up for others, and never too late to become someone who makes a difference. Even feeling empty-handed, you still have something to offer. It also speaks to the truth that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's quiet, like JT absorbing another punch because he believes a little girl deserves to live. Sometimes it's helping strangers, mentoring children, or choosing compassion when the world expects anger. For those of us over 45 who've weathered decades of change and challenge, it's a powerful reminder: our value doesn't diminish with age. Our stories matter, our second chances matter, and how we use them might just be the most important legacy we leave behind.